Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with the Explode, Ignite, Chieftain thing, endgame update. Just wanted to give a bit more footage on, that's so good, a bit more footage on the slight bit of endgame and the fact that we took down Simulacrum up to wave 30 without dying at least one time. So yeah, just quickly, that's mostly what the video is about. Like, I haven't really tried too much like bossing or anything because there's just not much bossing damage to be spoken of, except for when you press Vile Breach and then get lucky. But the map clear was insane. Some of the best, most satisfying map clear I think I've ever had. And then did a couple of simulacrums. One went up to wave 25 or 26, and that was using Garba the Ephemeral. With a few unlucky mods, I think, on the higher waves. But either way, I then swapped into a Cloak of Flame, just so I could actually tank way more damage in a Simulacrum, and got through 30 waves without dying. It was still pretty sketchy, but yeah, it was doable. And ultimately, Cloak of Flame is probably just where you should be with a build like this, because that gives you huge amounts of extra survivability against all things physical, and that's the only real issue, I suppose, because we're like Chaos Res capped, we got some decent block, we got 90 max res, but then physical damage can still come through, since we don't have that much armor. But you could also trade out haste for determination and then be even thicker once again if you really want to. I don't think haste is very good in my current setup, so you could easily do determination, Cloak of Flame, and then just be a thick, insane map clearer, and then probably Simulacrum farmer as well. But there are other things you could do to make things more expensive and more durable for like certain Simulacrums and shit. This is still relatively budget, all things considered. And yeah, just being hard carried by the 5% explode, 500% monster life Chieftain node. I did also put a rejuve totem into the build, which I press every now and again, and that's huge extra sustain and some taunt, but ultimately doesn't do that much for the build. So if you want, you can run a decoy, or I don't know, not even ascend. Maybe you could take the minus res node nearby and then not care about any sort of resistances, but at the end of the day, we do move around a lot, so I don't know if that's really worth it, and I think it's better off to just go early weakness and flammability with some exposure and all that. So you can see a good example of what Simulacrum looks like for the first like 15 waves or so, where yeah, gameplay doesn't have to be very intense, and it is basically an RF build with some explode attached to it, but once you start doing your own ignites, you start prolifing some of those, and then all you really need to do is kill a few monsters, and then once they start dying, once those 5% start kicking in, all the waves, all the packs get cleared, and including the bosses. So for the Simulacrum, the strategy ends up having to be try and kill large packs nearby the thick bosses, because that's the biggest problem of the runs by far. They are very thick, especially in the later waves, and the explode prolif, and even just the explode itself. I had a Kosis that died from like pure explode hit damage. That does huge amounts of damage, and it's what you kind of need to take these bosses down on this build. So if that doesn't work out and then you're left 1v1ing the boss, you basically have to pop a Vile Breach and make sure that that goes off well, or just tickle them down with the 1 million ignite DPS that the build otherwise has. It's really not huge on the ignite damage. Don't know if I can do anything different about that, but that's where it ended up landing. And the Garba the Ephemeral doesn't really change that. It's kind of just whatever. Not the best thing, as we already knew. But I was trying to give it a shot, and I mean, it's doable, it works, but there's probably way, way, way better chess pieces out there, including Cloak of Flame. And this is the 30th wave on that Deathless run. So it's still going to be a bit RNG. If you get waves that have like fire resist on them, then that's pretty much the worst thing that can happen to us. Lots and lots of different damage modifiers with penetration and stuff are pretty bad as well, but if there's lots of fire res, then things live a lot longer, then they can end up killing you. But at the end of the day, it's still just going to be about diving around. And actually, this does remind me one other thing. I did pick up a Watcher's Eye with haste phasing on it. So nothing else, just phasing while having haste. So then my character has phasing all the time. And that's just nice for Simulacrum and also for some map farming. Otherwise, you could also run a Quartz Flask for phasing. But phasing does feel pretty nice for just survivability and smoothness during lots of pack clear and pack size and all that. But that's all there is to it. So I think that's all there is to say. The only other thing is for the actual Corpse Prolif and stuff, make sure you get generic Ignite chance. So just chance to ignite, we get it from the passive tree, because that's how that's going to ignite and Prolif. But with that, that's the end of the character. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to map with. Didn't do much bossing. It's not really going to be good for bossing, at least not on the very high end. But yeah, hope you guys get some Chieftain action in. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.